Jack Bauer saved America 9 times, died twice, started World War III, and managed to convince us to embrace torture. This is the story of how one show changed television drastically while completely losing its mind. 24 is absolutely insane, for lack of better words. Like genuinely unhinged television that somehow persuaded us all that Kiefer Sutherland whispering "damn it" into a flip phone was the height of dramatic tension. But here's the thing, it worked. Throughout its seasons, this show had me glued to my screen, yelling at CTU agents for being incompetent while Jack single-handedly prevented the apocalypse. Again, let's rock and roll. Season 1 started simple enough. Terrorists want to kill presidential candidate David Palmer. Jack's family gets kidnapped as leverage. Standard action movie stuff, right? What hooked me immediately was the real-time format. Every episode was 1 hour of Jack's day, commercial breaks included. That ticking clock created urgency I'd never felt watching television. When Jack said he was running out of time, I actually believed him. The Terry and Kim kidnapping storyline should have been generic damsel in distress territory. But here's where 24 got clever. They made the family capable. Terry fights back, Kim escapes multiple times, and both women make smart decisions under pressure. Well, mostly smart. That amnesia subplot still makes me cringe. Nina Myers being the mole? Chef's kiss. That reveal hit different because we'd spent 23 episodes trusting her completely. Sarah Clark played it perfectly. Nothing in her performance suggested betrayal until the final moments. Then suddenly, every scene became recontextualized. And that ending, Terry's death, absolutely brutal. Shows didn't kill main characters back then, especially not pregnant wives of protagonists. It established 24's most important rule: nobody is safe. Season 2. In Season 2, 24 found its rhythm and completely lost its mind simultaneously. Nuclear bomb in Los Angeles? Sure. Middle Eastern terrorists as primary villains? Yep. Casual racism disguised as patriotism? Unfortunately, also yes. What I loved about Season 2 was how it expanded the scope. We got presidential decision-making, international conspiracies, and multiple plot threads that somehow converged. The writing team mastered the art of making every character's storyline feel essential. George Mason's arc broke my heart. This guy starts as Jack's antagonist, becomes his ally, then sacrifices himself flying that nuclear bomb away from populated areas. Xander Berkeley played it with such dignity that I actually teared up when he died. The torture debate started here, and honestly, watching it now feels uncomfortable. Jack's methods work because the writers make them work, but real torture doesn't produce reliable intelligence. At the time, though, I was completely bought in. Jack's desperation felt genuine, and the stakes justified everything. President Palmer's storyline introduced political complexity that elevated the show beyond simple action entertainment. Dennis Haysbert brought gravitas to every scene, making Palmer feel like an actual leader rather than a plot device. Season 3. The third season gave us the Salazars and what I consider the show's best villain, Stephen Saunders. This season proved 24 could do more than terrorism. It could explore personal vendettas and systemic corruption. Jack's heroin addiction storyline was bold television. Instead of making it consequence-free, the show explored how Jack's undercover work damaged him physically and psychologically. Watching Kiefer Sutherland play withdrawal symptoms was genuinely harrowing. Tony and Michelle's relationship provided emotional grounding throughout the chaos. These two actually communicated like adults, supported each other professionally, and maintained their humanity despite working in an insane environment. Their wedding planning during biological weapon threats? Peak 24 absurdity. The virus storyline terrified me more than nuclear bombs because it felt more plausible. Biological weapons spread invisibly, creating paranoia and helplessness that traditional explosives can't match. Every cough became suspicious. Wayne Palmer's introduction added family dynamics to the presidential storyline. Having David's brother challenge his decisions from within created internal conflict that felt realistic. Presidents don't make decisions in isolation, and this season explored those power dynamics effectively. Season 4. Season 4 remains my personal favorite because it balanced absurdity with genuine emotion. Habib Marwan, as the season-long antagonist, gave the show its most coherent villain arc, and Arnold Vosloo played him with a quiet menace that was more terrifying than any screaming terrorist. Behrouza Raz's storyline hit different because it explored radicalization from the inside. This kid gets drawn into his parents' terrorist plot, realizes the horror of what they're planning, and tries to escape. It humanized the other side in ways that made me uncomfortable but were necessary. Chloe O'Brien joining the main cast was genius. Mary Lynn Rajskub created this incredibly specific character, socially awkward but professionally brilliant, abrasive but loyal. She became Jack's most reliable ally precisely because she didn't try to be his friend. The Chinese consulate raid where Jack dies was peak 24 plotting. Fake deaths, international incidents, and Kiefer Sutherland getting to play his own corpse. Ridiculous? Absolutely. Entertaining? Completely. President Keeler's plane crash felt like jumping the shark, except the show somehow made it work. Having the president incapacitated during a national crisis created a leadership vacuum that drove the final episode's tension. Season 5. I liked how 24 completely embraced its own madness and produced some of television's most memorable moments in the 5th season. President Logan as the primary antagonist was brilliant casting. Gregory Itzin made Logan simultaneously pathetic and terrifying. David Palmer's assassination in the opening minutes established that Season 5 would show no mercy. Killing off Dennis Haysbert's beloved character was a bold choice that immediately raised stakes for everyone else. The nerve gas storyline allowed for genuine horror. Getting to watch innocent people die slowly while Jack raced against time created visceral tension that nuclear bombs somehow couldn't match. Death became personal rather than abstract. Martha Logan's breakdown provided the season's emotional center. Jean Smart played mental illness with such authenticity that Martha became the most relatable character despite being the First Lady. Her scenes with Aaron Pierce were television gold. Jack's relationship with Audrey Raines frustrated me initially, but Kim Raver sold the complexity. Here's a woman trying to love someone who's emotionally unavailable due to trauma and circumstances. Their chemistry felt earned rather than forced. The season finale where Jack gets kidnapped by the Chinese was a perfect setup for the next chapter. After 5 seasons of Jack winning, seeing him completely helpless created anticipation for his return. Season 6. I'll be honest, Season 6 is rough. Jack's return from Chinese prison should have been triumphant, but the nuclear suitcase storyline felt recycled. We'd seen this before, and the execution lacked the innovation of previous seasons. The family drama with Graham Bauer and Josh revealed too much about Jack's background. Part of his appeal was being this mysterious figure who appeared when America needed him. Learning about his complicated family relationships diminished that mystique. Morris O'Brien's torture subplot was the season's highlight. Carlo Rota played trauma with subtle brilliance, showing how torture damages everyone involved. His scenes with Chloe explored relationship dynamics under extreme stress. President Wayne Palmer's storyline tried to recapture his brother's gravitas but felt forced. D.B. Woodside is a capable actor, but the writing didn't give him David Palmer's moral authority or political intelligence. The season's saving grace was its final episodes. Jack's confrontation with his father and brother provided personal stakes that had been missing from the broader terrorism plot. Sometimes family betrayal hurts more than national threats. Season 7. Moving to Washington, D.C. revitalized the show by changing its entire visual landscape. New locations, new characters, and new political dynamics made everything feel fresh again. President Allison Taylor brought different energy to the presidency. Cherry Jones played her as competent but conflicted, making tough decisions without the moral certainty that characterized Palmer. More realistic, arguably more interesting. The African genocide storyline was ambitious television that mostly succeeded. Addressing real-world humanitarian crises through 24's action framework created educational value alongside entertainment. Renee Walker's introduction gave Jack a worthy partner who challenged his methods. Annie Wershing played her as someone who could match Jack's intensity without losing her humanity. Their dynamic carried the season's emotional weight. Tony Almeida's return as a villain broke my heart. Carlos Bernard sold the transformation convincingly, but seeing Jack's closest friend become his enemy felt like betrayal. The personal stakes elevated every confrontation between them. Season 8. Season 8 knew it was the end, and that knowledge permeated every episode. Jack's increasing isolation and desperation felt like natural character progression rather than manufactured drama. The Russian conspiracy storyline provided satisfying closure to multiple character arcs. Having foreign powers manipulate American politics felt timely and relevant, even if the execution was sometimes over the top. President Taylor's corruption arc was devastating to watch. Cherry Jones played the fall from grace with subtle brilliance, showing how good people make terrible choices under pressure. Her final scenes with Jack were heartbreaking. Renee's death was brutal but necessary. It represented the final severing of Jack's connections to normal life, pushing him toward the isolation that defined his character. Annie Wershing's performance in her final episodes was phenomenal. The series finale, where Jack goes into exile, felt appropriate. After 8 days of saving America, he finally becomes too dangerous to remain. It's tragic, but earned. Heroes sometimes pay prices that victory can't justify. Live another day. The 12-episode format allowed for tighter storytelling without filler. Setting it in London provided fresh visual elements while maintaining the show's core identity. Chloe's transformation into hacktivist was brilliant character development. Instead of ignoring the years between seasons, the writers used that time to evolve her naturally. Mary Lynn Rajskub played the changes with perfect subtlety. President Heller's Alzheimer's storyline added poignancy to the political drama. William Devane brought vulnerability to a character who could have been generic. His scenes with Jack carried emotional weight that elevated the entire miniseries. The drone warfare theme felt contemporary and relevant. Using technology that didn't exist during the original run gave writers opportunities to explore new moral questions while maintaining familiar stakes. Jack's final sacrifice, trading himself for peace, provided closure that the original series finale couldn't. Sometimes heroes need to lose themselves to save what they love most. Legacy Day, the final chapter. Legacy was supposed to be 24's next generation, but honestly, it felt like fan fiction. Corey Hawkins tried his best as Eric Carter, but the character lacked Jack's specific charisma and complexity. The real-time format worked fine, but the supporting characters never clicked. Miranda Otto's Rebecca Ingram had potential, but the writing didn't give her enough depth to carry the show's political storylines. The action sequences were competently staged, but they lacked the visceral urgency that made original 24 special. Everything felt too clean, too digital, too removed from the gritty reality that grounded even the show's most ridiculous moments. The conspiracy storyline involving CTU's past operations was interesting conceptually, but the execution felt rushed. 12 episodes wasn't enough time to develop the mythology that made the original series compelling. Legacy proved that 24 without Jack Bauer is just another action show. The format matters, but the character chemistry and specific performance dynamics are what made the original special. Looking back at all 9 seasons, what strikes me most is how 24 captured America's post-9/11 anxiety while providing cathartic fantasy solutions. Jack Bauer couldn't exist in reality, but for a decade, we needed him to exist on television. The show's politics were problematic, its plotting was ridiculous, and its solutions were impossible. But for 1 hour every week, Jack Bauer made us believe that individuals could matter, that heroes still existed, and that impossible odds were just another challenge to overcome. Which season was your favorite? Did Jack's methods ever make you uncomfortable? Until next time.